Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? What is beyond pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
That little line from Christopher Lee there, oh, that reminds me. I have in my possession right now, possession, the Blu-ray of last year's restoration of The Wicker Man, the 4K restoration. I'll let you know how that goes, folks. I've got high hopes for it, though. I really have. I hope you're well, everyone. This is episode 162 of Double Feature Horror Show, where we will be reviewing The Devil Rides Out. That's right, reviewing The Devil Rides Out. Hi, everyone who clicked on hoping for a pirated movie again, and we'll then chimp over it. But hey, what can you do? Everyone else, I hope you've had a good week. Hope you've been looking forward to this and enjoy doing your homework. I think this was requested very early on when we said we're covering classic Hammer, and frankly, I expected nothing less. This is a champ for a reason. I was going to have a topic for you, but I'm afraid things went absolutely crazy in the world of work. Unfortunately, I am not backed by mysterious Russians, so I do have to keep up my own job, and it got a little busy. So I do not have a review of Hammer Glamour for you. But my goodness, I've got my hands on the book. You wonderful people last week were very generous, and I've been able to get not only Hammer Glamour, a large hardback photo book of the ladies of Hammer, which contains the absolutely unforgettable line. And since the audiences were now ravenous for continental crumpet, yeah, we're going to have a look at that. You know, that's a bit of a treat. It's a lot saucier than I expected, guys. I'll be honest. These photo sets, they really they don't leave much to the imagination, but we will cover that next opportunity. So I think we're pretty much straight into business. I also picked up another book about Hammer, thanks to you guys being so wonderful. So just saying, again, I really appreciate you. You guys are fantastic. And if any of you watching live now, or you fabulous folks on the rewatch, want to help support the channel so that I can get this research without worrying, I can chase it down with no problem. You can, of course, use super chats or join the channel as a member. That would be my preferred method, because when you join as a member, either here or on Subscribestar, I get to sort of give you exclusive content. You get to vote on what we cover. So if you want to do that, that's very much appreciated. With that very smooth shill out the way, Patrick, it really was. I mean, the Collinson twins. Yeah, wow. There's a lot of stuff that is not in the movie. Let's put it that way. Anyway, with that said, that very smooth shill out the way, tonight is myself and regular co-host, Margoot.
Good evening, everybody. Just to show myself, I'm at Margoot on X or Twitter or whatever the hell. And just posting whatever tickles my fancy right now. Donald Trump cat memes, various signs posting.
The cat memes have been very good.
It's it's not much else to say about that.
That's fair. Any thoughts on this one? John,
I
news
like
from John Gorris. The
Good.
ghost of Peter Cushing, or the Cushing estate more properly, is haunting Lucas Disney in court for digitally resurrecting him. Well, I mean, given where they're using him, yeah, I kind of think so. I think so. Do you know where this the legal theory for this originates? There's an interesting case.
Was it Sir Laurence Olivier and Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow?
No, way back.
Way back?
Yeah. It's Back to the Future 2. Crispin Glover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he didn't want to return, so they reused existing footage of him and doubles and so on. And he protested, and so that started a lot of legal wranglings about your image and rights to misrepresent you. Yeah, true facts, folks. True facts. I bet you didn't expect that when you came to this horror review show. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Hello, Leslie Russell. We got you as a bit of a regular when we cover Hammer. I hope we're doing a good job, because I see you're very clearly a fan of them, and I think you've probably seen a lot more than I have. So I hope we're doing a good job for you. Well, Mergu, getting pretty much into it, it feels almost passé to ask you, but we should do it. Is this your first viewing of The Devil Rides Out?
That I know of.
What, really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I may have seen it as a kid, but I did not remember it at all.
Wow.
So.
I thought it was I just assumed you had seen it. Okay, wow. So first experience, can I get a quick reaction, a quick hot take from you?
It was nice to see Sir Christopher Lee, as the hero, just as mysterious as his villains, but it was wonderful to see him actually have lines.
True. We're staying backstage. There is a kind of... Actually, it was referenced as well in one of the books I got, thanks to you wonderful folks, from A Thing of Unspeakable Horror by Sinclair McKay, which is all about the history of Hammer. He's got kind of a critical eye, I've got to say. He's not a fan of some of the things I'm a fan of, but he has done a fair amount of research. He's got some interesting stuff in there. And he relates what's kind of a well-known story about Christopher Lee in one of the sequels to the Draculas, just refusing to say the lines because they were so terrible. And hence, just hissing the film.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one it is, because I can just see the still of just him hissing, and knowing the backstory is just hilarious.
It has helped. Looking into this stuff has made sense of a few things for me. Like when he did The Wicker Man in 1973, he basically took no money for it, and he paid out of pocket to go on a tour promoting it. And I think it strikes me that for a lot of Hammer, I don't feel he was really impressed with what he was asked to do. So when he got a chance to do something unusual, something he cared about, like The Devil Rides Out, like The Wicker Man, it seems like he massively committed to it. And
yeah, I read that he actually insisted on Hammer making this.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
He liked the novel so much.
Yeah, this was not supported by Anthony Hines, who was their big American producer, the money guy for a lot of this. Certainly all the early stuff. We should note here that this is 1968's The Devil Rides Out, so we're actually a couple of years before what we covered last week, which was the saucy side of Hammer with the vampire lovers. So this is still, in a way, traditional Hammer. In a way, I mean, we've no Cushing, but we do have Christopher Lee, and we do have the OG director. I apologize for saying OG there. Just assume I was really excited. The original director, Terence Fisher, returning, but Terence Fisher returning with about 12 more films under his belt.
Yeah, John Goris. Lee was well read into the occult. He really didn't like it. He thought it was evil and the people should avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, he was definitely serious about that. I guess what I was getting to is this. Yeah, this was a passion project for him, like The Wicker Man, like Lord of the Rings. This was something he cared about, and I think he was deathly serious about. As was the author of the book, Dennis, that this is based on, Dennis Wheatley. I should note for American viewers, you didn't get it titled The Devil Rides Out. There was concern that that sounded a bit too much like a Western. So if you're watching this from America, you got instead this. Huh?
Yeah.
Actually, let's move us to the side there, Mergoot. Yes.
Yeah, the copy I watched was the British version, and it actually opened with the BBFC X warning.
Excellent. Yeah. This was again. My research had that this was somewhat actually hampered by the BBFC. It turns out John Trevelyan, as we learned last week, may have been a little more lenient on lesbians, but the occult, he was a fair bit more serious about. And that's why this came rather late in the day. In fact, gosh, actually, I want to stay just a little more on the intro, a little bit longer. Who said? Oh, yeah, Baldwin. Yes, Wheatley is based. Oh, my friend. We've got a little bit on that. It's good we don't have a topic because there is so much to cover on this. We will return to Wheatley. But I just wanted to check with you. So this, to an extent, it's kind of classic Hammer, right? So we've got Christopher Lee. We do have Terence Fisher. But we've got some really quite major changes here. I don't know if you maybe noticed some of the things that were standard Hammer, some of the things that look quite new to you, if anything struck you.
A lot of hold on a moment.
I'm waiting for one thing in particular that may have stood out. Maybe any of you guys noticed it. Actually, I'll just ask chat. Did you notice anything different about this one? I'm curious.
The outside sets.
Nailed it. Yep. Yeah, you got it in one. This is no bray. No bray in it for this one. Now, obviously, we know from the Vampire Lovers and Twins of Evil that they returned to Bray for some shots, but absolutely, they had kind of exhausted their sets to the point where I think it was becoming almost cliche for them and making it look a bit cheap. You know that
Mm-hmm.
It was the same European village set. It was the same village inn set. It was the same
cabin in the woods.
internal hall of Bray Studios that we've come to know and love so well. So for this one, and to an extent onwards, Hammer had started shooting from Elstree Studios, so Pinewood Studios, and were using a lot of their sets. Obviously, they kept using Bray for a bit, but this one they really needed to freshen it up, and they did. To an extent, I think Michael Carreras, who is president of Hammer, he really wanted Hammer to improve its status and improve its name. There was a fun thing going on because they'd been basically very commercially successful, but I think the reputation they had among actors was maybe not far off Carry On. It wasn't seen as high art, put it that way. And yet, weirdly enough, I think maybe the year before this, 1967, they actually were awarded. They actually got royal recognition for Hammer, if you know that. True story. I am going to look up the. Okay, right. The Queen's Award for Industry was presented to. Oh, I apologize. Sorry, it was James Carreras received it, not Michael. At the time, yes. James Carreras was president, and it was son Michael who would take over after him. Right. Apologies, guys. There's 3 Carreras. I've got to keep them straight. Yes. He receives the Queen's Award for Industry on the set of Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. That is the Lord Lieutenant of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Turns up to present the award and give a speech in which he says, "I know you have had great success with what are termed horror films, but I was glad to learn from your chairman that the word horror does not include scenes of actual personal violence." He was saying this after a scene in which Christopher Lee is impaled and writhing on a giant gold crucifix, weeping tears of blood. Good times, good times.
Yeah. The mansion with the observatory, what is the name of that estate? Because I've seen it in other movies too.
Oh, you've seen it all over the place. It's quite standard. It was in Randall and Hopkirk. I don't actually have it down, I'm afraid, which one it was. But yeah, if you want, try and look that up if you want. I was just going to say that, yeah, so in making this, I think to an extent, having received a Queen's Award for Industry, I do think that Michael and James Carreras, they wanted to raise the stakes for Hammer, if you will, to get some appreciation. And I think a fair bit of what they did here was an attempt to do that. Now, Anthony Hines, the money man, was resistant. The Carreras were resistant, but I think Christopher Lee having such backing for it, and this representing a change of pace for them, probably swung it into the persuasive mode and got them to actually make this. And, you know, the chance that it could raise a reputation, I think, certainly doesn't hurt. And it was very well timed because Hammer had a bit of a problem at this point. So this comes out in 1968, which is actually a very significant year for horror. There are 3 films that came out that year that can make old Hammer look very old-fashioned and dusty. Are any of them coming to your mind, Mergu? I'm springing this on you. You don't have to know, but does anything come to your mind for 1968? I'm always wondering if
somebody mentioned Rosemary's Baby.
Yes, exactly. Yes, John Gorris. Yes, indeed. Rosemary's Baby, so extremely modern. Totally totally different delivery. Night of the Living Dead, also 68. And in Britain, maybe the most direct attack on Hammer, in a way, was I always get his name wrong. Michael Reeves' Witchfinder General.
Ah.
Starring, Thurman Trees got it. Well done. Thurman Trees, you win a point. Night of the Living Dead, yes. And yeah, so Michael Reeves' Witchfinder General, starring our love, our wonderful Vincent Price.
Right. Yep.
And that's also sort of, that feels to me like the most direct challenge to Hammer, because it's got the same costumes, medieval period, Middle Ages period. It really looks like the same settings, but it's stripped of the supernatural. The delivery is harsh, bleak, extremely disturbing, and it's able to go, I don't know, be a lot more sadistic in a way that makes Hammer seem, again, dated. So, in a way, it's extremely well timed that they managed to make this and try and keep things fresh, given when it was released.
Yeah.
But I do find it very interesting.
This had a very different feel overall than early Hammer.
Completely.
The dialogue was better. The pacing was frenetic. I mean, it was just bang, 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 bang all the way down. It didn't slow down. It didn't drag everything.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. And it's actually longer. This is the longest Hammer that we've reviewed so far, I believe, at 95 minutes. And yet, I like you, I just don't feel it dragged.
Yeah,
it just kept going. It was wonderful. Like, just noting, you're straight into the action. They've discovered the plot and evacuated their friend within 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed by it.
And then all the rushing around to get everything set up and keep Simon and Tanith corralled and failing miserably at every step. Every time Christopher Lee goes to London to do research, things go horribly wrong.
Yeah, it all falls apart without him. Yeah. A little quick note here at the start. I realize this is extremely boring for all of you, but have you looked at the production company? Did you pay attention to that?
No. 7 Arts.
Well, that's because you're normal. This is purely for curiosity's purpose, folks, but 7 Arts is a new production sideline joining in with Hammer here. Why would we care about 7 Arts? Well, just point of interest. They funded Stanley Kubrick for a bit.
Oh, wow.
For 2 films. So they started off funding Lolita, and I believe they also hang on. No, I believe it was just Lolita. But when he moved to the UK and was shifting his production there with Jimmy Harris, Jimmy Harris was their connection to 7 Arts, who funded Lolita. But after that, that was sort of the last Harris Kubrick production, and therefore he had to get his money elsewhere when he went on to do Dr. Strangelove. There you go. If anyone was wondering. All right. We got a little more meat to get into before we get into the film analysis itself. So if you haven't done your homework, don't worry. We'll give you a little recap here. But I just want to celebrate here that I actually have a chance, after over a year and a half, that I can finally use Clive Barker's A to Z of Horror, which is one of the least used research books that I've got here. So I'm just going to use Clive Barker to give us a little bit of an introduction to Dennis Wheatley, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Let's do it. Tell you what, I will get Dennis Wheatley on screen so we can appreciate him. if I can find the chap. Where is it? I had him looking quite chaddish, really. Sorry, I'm looking. There's my lad. Do you want old Wheatley or do you want piercing gaze frog account Wheatley?
Old Wheatley, just because that's...
There you go. We'll go for old Wheatley. There we are. Okay. So this is Clive Barker here. He starts with the quotation, "I often get letters from readers suggesting that the Duc de Richelieu is a copy of myself. That is very flattering. I would like it to be, and the ideas he expresses are often my own. But I fear I lack his nobility of character." There's this lack of cynicism that I really enjoy. I really enjoy that. Okay. Whether it's a country, a neighborhood, an old dark house, or your own body, horror thrives on environments. We all crave boundaries, those carefully contrived markers that reassure us that our bodies or minds are safe from invasion. But if one of those boundaries can be breached, or worse still, what if they're not keeping the horror outside, but just giving it a safe haven in here with us? Classic British horror has an unwritten rule. Aristocrats should suffer mightily against the forces of darkness, but it is always the servants who should mop up the blood. No British author understood this better than Dennis Wheatley, 1897 to 1977. Servant of the Queen and enemy of the devil. Wheatley always maintained that he obtained the material for his novels about black magic from books and from a meeting in the 1930s with the occultist Aleister Crowley. The literature of occultism is so immense that any conscientious writer can obtain from it abundant material, he explained. I have spared no pains to secure accuracy of detail from existing accounts when describing magical rites or formulas for protection against evil, and these have been verified in conversation with certain persons sought out for that purpose, who are actual practitioners of the art. I desire to state that I personally have never assisted at or participated in any ceremony connected with magic, black or white, he added. But I can tell a story. Yes, I can tell a story. That he certainly could. Dennis Wheatley was born on London on 8th of January 1897 into a family of wine merchants. He entered the business after his education and became the sole owner when his father died in 1926. From 1941 to 1944, he was a wing commander on Sir Winston Churchill's joint planning staff on the War Cabinet. Hint, hint, spy. He began writing in the early 1930s, and his first novel, The Forbidden Territory, became very successful. He continued to write in a number of genres, including espionage thrillers, historical romances, science fiction, and lost worlds, but he is best remembered today for his books about black magic and the occult. It is said that during one 48-hour period, Wheatley smoked 250 cigarettes, drank 5 magnums of champagne, and still managed to write 20,000 words.
Yeah, he wrote 20,000 words. How many were legible?
A fine question indeed, Mergoot. Yes. Clive Barker, many others go out of their way. Actually, so does Mackay, Sinclair Mackay, who I quoted earlier. They go out their way to point out that Wheatley is very out of fashion now. Even though he was popular at the time, you don't see his books about anymore. And it's sort of a shame, really, but there may be a bit of an explanation for this, for why he fell out of favor.
Yeah, I read. You sent me a letter to posterity from Wheatley, and that was, yeah, he really didn't like labor. He really didn't like the Socialist Labor Party.
Would you like to set the scene for everyone? What is Dennis Wheatley's letter to posterity?
Okay, if I read it right, he wrote this letter explaining his feelings on the world coming into modernity and how politics had changed and how media advancements had ruined politics. And he was...
For context, World War II had just ended, and Churchill had been kicked out. The British Empire was starting, it was sort of in the motion of being dismantled. Cheers, Churchill. And Labour had been voted in. And he was very fearful of this. It really was a sort of, it's hard to imagine for us, but it was a very palpable sense of the age of the aristocracy was very, very over.
Yeah. And the age of the common man, the equal man, was coming in, much to his dismay. He was going to put it in a bottle and put it in his basement for whoever bought the house next, whenever they dug it up. But he moved out of the house in the 60s, and a couple of years later it was summarily demolished, and somehow somebody found the bottle and managed to save his letter to posterity and set it out for the world to see. I don't know any details beyond that, but it's...
I was interested that it was handwritten. He hadn't typed it. He had written it out by hand, and I mean, what I take from that is I find it very, very interesting indeed that this is a wealthy man. This is a successful man. This is a chap with all sorts of connections. But nevertheless, he feels he has to hide this letter. He can't just publish it. He knows that what he says in this letter has to be hidden until his death. People are already speculating about the contents of the letter. Oh my, oh my. Well,
oh no, he doesn't mention them. He mentions the communists a lot.
Yes, he starts setting the scene, folks. It's about 3,000 words long. You can find it in its entirety online. It does get into a territory that I would describe a little TED posty, and I just hope you'll indulge us for about 10 minutes while we discuss it. Think of this. Tell you what, guys. Think of this as a bit of a companion to a topic we did a long time ago, where we compared H.P. Lovecraft's opinions to Oswald Spengler's opinions, and we're sort of obviously, if you recall, Lovecraft owned Spengler's Decline of the West, but oh, sorry guys, I'm forgetting the German title. The title is so much better in German, and it's escaping me at the moment. But we contrasted their takes on it. Well, think of this as a bit of a companion to that topic, and look out that stream if you've not heard it, because I was very proud of that.
I put a link in the chat for anybody who wants to read it.
Yeah. He sets out a little bit of a scene for just his station in life, but then he gets into more historical perspective. Murgoot's going to read from this a little bit. We can't read you the whole thing, but I just think his take on just history is really interesting. And think of Lovecraft, maybe think of Uncle Ted when you hear this stuff. Murgoot, could you take it away from page 2, please?
Certainly. When I was born, electricity had been discovered but not yet adapted to practical everyday usage. London had no electric light or telephone system. Wireless, radio recording, broadcasting, and gramophones were still unknown, and the petrol engine was still in its infancy. There were no motor cars. On the streets, all vehicles were still horse-drawn, and for traveling further afield, steam train, as yet without corridor coaches, was the only means of transport. Liners and warships were generally steam-propelled, but a great part of the world's seaborne commerce was still carried in sailing ships. And the idea of traveling by air was as remote and unreal with us as it was with the Romans. The electric age, having its infancy while I was a schoolboy, reaching maturity during the First World War, and becoming a dominant factor in all our lives from then on, has revolutionized thought wherever it has penetrated. In the early years of the century, the vast majority of the people of Europe and the United States, and even more so those of the less progressive areas of the world, formed their opinions from personal contact with their fellows. The more advanced among them were neither lacking intelligence or political consciousness, but their attitude toward their rulers was governed in the main by 1, any new laws which affected their personal well-being, and 2, the discussion of events at the centers of government, declarations of war, treaties of alliance, court scandals, royal marriages, etc. These were often belatedly reported, but formed the staple talk whenever men were gathered together, in the towns, in clubs and taverns, in the country, in public halls and inns. Thus, in those days, the voice of the people was in fact the consensus of opinion arrived at after a vast number of free debates had taken place at the very level of society and in all parts of the country concerned. The voice was rarely raised, but when it was, rulers had good cause to tremble, and almost invariably the result was a cessation of repression or a change of government, as the voice was usually pregnant with both justice and common sense. But the voice was stilled by the coming of the electro-machine age, as new inventions enabled the professional politicians of all parties to get into direct touch with every community, however remote. First came the electric press, enabling 1 million or more copies of a newspaper to be run off in a single night, and enormously improved arrangements for distribution. Then came the wireless telegraph, which swiftly developed into radio, with a 5 times a day news service, which by means of a cheap receiving set could be picked up in every home. And these were followed by the cinematograph, which soon became one of the most insidious weapons for political propaganda. The result was that instead of forming their opinions by quiet thought and reasoned discussion, the bulk of people took them ready-made from so-called informed sources, and in consequence, in the short space of the first 2 decades of the 20th century, an almost unbelievable change took place in the mental attitude of masses all over the world. The immense speeding up of means of communication brought the national and international picture so swiftly before them that it filled their thoughts to the exclusion of local conditions and the well-being of their own communities. Political ideologies and abstract theories of government usurped in their minds the place which had previously been occupied by the selective prosperity of local industries and the prospect of crops. Worst of all, the masses came under the immediate influence of the political demagogues who labeled themselves the representatives of the people, who held that all men being equal, all power should be vested in the majority rather than in the intelligent minority, as had been the case in the past. For many centuries, power had been vested in priest-kings who were usually members of a hereditary ruling house, but the authority of such rulers was nearly always circumscribed by a group of elders, or a feudal nobility whose say in matters varied in accordance with the strength of personality of the reigning potentate. It was generally recognized the throne could be permanently maintained only if it were the apex of a solidly supporting pyramid of aristocracy, and thus, as a general rule, the priests, nobles, senators exercised a power at least equal to that of the priest kings. In the event of the ruler proving irresponsible or despotic, they usually succeeded in either overthrowing or placing check upon him, as was the case when the barons of England forced King John to sign the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
Moreover, the priesthood or nobility was constantly being added to the rise of men of exceptional ability and talent among the masses, as witness King Henry VIII's great minister, Cardinal Wolsey, who began life as a butcher's boy. Thus, until the dawning of the New Age, the lives of the vast majority of people in all countries were ordered in accordance with the will and beliefs of a comparatively small ruling class, mainly composed of the boldest, cleverest, and most energetic individuals in each nation.
Thanks. That's, yeah, excellent. I mean, I love the idea that people have just sort of stumbled into this, like, are you meant to talk about Christopher Lee? So there's some really interesting historicity there. I hope you're all sort of sitting there going, like, based. But it's true. I mean, does that remind you maybe a little bit of, in just communications terms, you should be thinking, oh, there's some Edward Bernays coming through here. There's some Jacques Ellul coming through there, about just the ability of mass communication to have this utter transformation of how knowledge works through society. And Wheatley there is just on his own recognizing it, and not putting it in academic terms the way Ellul or way Bernays do, but he's just describing what he's witnessed. It really reminded me. Oh, sorry, Mergut, go ahead.
Did Wheatley have communication with Orwell at all? Do you know?
That's a really good question. I mean, they were contemporaries. He's writing that in 1947.
About the time 1984 came out.
But he would have been, I mean, they're quite different social strata. I don't know if he did, actually. Maybe that's an area for research.
True.
But
One
yeah, a
was
bit of
the other
overlap in ideas.
One was gentry in England, and the other one was a disaffected laborite in India and Burma. So who knows?
Yeah, it's not impossible. It got me thinking of like how swiftly the sort of vertical structures of a nation were put in place in the 20th century. Wheatley's talking about how your conversation is like really at the local level, and it made me think of Peter Hitchens with his starting at the that section in The Abolition of Britain where he talks about how, apart from seeing the postman, you wouldn't be aware of the state. And whereas now, it's because of advances in technology, it's integrated everywhere. Wheatley's getting at that too. He, I suppose, in a way similar to Orwell, maybe understandably, because let's be very honest, at the time he's writing and the early 20th century, poverty was
I looked it up,
awful.
but I couldn't find anything with Orwell, but Wheatley was very familiar and had a full library of Huxley's works.
Oh, now that's a very interesting comparison. I suppose what Huxley's saying about the way the masses are satisfied. Yeah, maybe that chimes even more. I mean, that really does chime with some of the stuff in the film, which we will get to, folks, eventually. But yeah, he's just setting up how the society has changed so much by the technology. Told you, he gets TED posting. Then beyond that, he talks about how he's very sympathetic to some of the changes that were made by the government to basically try and alleviate the absolutely horrific poverty that was there. Like, on one level, he's saying in a sort of way that Wilfredo Pareto might recognize, there's a healthy system because there is an elite. Yes, there's absolutely an elite. But good people can rise into it from wherever they start. You know, he goes out of his way to mention Cardinal Wolsey there, starting out as a butcher's boy. So he sees, like, yeah, there's a meritocracy in place. He likes aristocracy, but he believes it should be open, kind of like Pareto. But he then goes on to talk about how it goes astray. He talks about how he's fond of the National Health Service. He's fond of some things that were done for people. I'll try and see if I can find exactly what he was praising. I'm just trying to see it. No, okay, I can't find it. So effectively, he talks about some of the things being good, especially the National Health Service. He's fond of that, right?
But he was also critical of how far the labor laws had gone and were smashing out.
Exactly. He says on the third page
of those who wanted to work overtime by being banned overtime at that point in time.
Yes. He says he talks about the slippery slope to which the new socialist government of the people, by the people, for the people has now brought a once rich and prosperous Britain. Yes. So he is aware of the slippery slope, and he is not wrong. Now, for the question about if anyone was named, well, he does reference on page 3 the bureaucratic socialist octopus, but you can interpret that however you like. I don't believe he was hinting at that, to be honest.
He really didn't like the tax man.
Well, who does? I mean, the example he gives of the tax man is, brutal. Where is it? Oh, here it goes. Okay. Successive governments have brought in ever higher rates of income tax with a sharply rising scale according to income, so that by 1940, the great bulk of all taxation was borne by the moderately well-off and richer classes. In fact, a married workman with 4 children could earn up to £400 a year without paying any tax at all, whereas a millionaire with an income of 50,000 had to surrender 44,000 in taxation. Again, under the old system, there were many abuses of power, particularly through economic pressure, whereby workers were often compelled to labour over long hours in unhealthy conditions. But here again, during the first 40 years of the present century, an enormous amount had been done to redress these evils. Education and health services had been made free to all, hours of work restricted, minimum wages set for all types of labour, insurance of workers against accident made compulsory on employers, and both unemployment pay and old-age pensions assured to all below a certain income level. So he sounds kind of fine with that, but he is saying, like, it's going too far. It's going way, way too far.
Yeah.
What's your take on that stuff, Mergoot?
Based.
It's all right.
The social safety net is a good thing, but the bureaucracy is using it to feed itself and grow, and it's putting out rules that are stifling us even more than the previous rules did.
Yeah, it's I think it's fair enough. I mean, I feel there's some justified idealism, like he's seeing problems that were there, and he's glad they're fixed. But I'm glad he's also seeing that it's. To me, I'm not sure if he sees that it's the root of the way that it's fixed that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, just you might think, what are you talking about? How else are you going to fix it? I'm like, well, if it were fixed through voluntary associations at a local level, run locally, then that's much more personal, it's much more responsive, and if it fails, it can't sort of drag everyone else in as well. That's the kind of thing, whereas if you run it through a national state, you inherently are sort of building this apparatus that Wheatley ends up talking about. We got a reference here. Morgoth's video about the H.P. Lovecraft story Nyarlathotep touches on the encroachment of technology in society. Well, I have to read that. I have to both watch that video and read that story, but I'd be very interested.
The story is very short, and I think I've seen part of Morgoth's video, but I lost track of it.
It's worth doing. It's worth doing. So yeah, you might. I think there's potential for based in there, as long as he's because I think he does recognize that slippery slope.
And
Good intentions, but oh gosh, that started us going. It gets kind of interesting. He talks about communism a fair bit more, and I'm gonna give him a based verdict based on this bit from the final page. And this is the ultimate outcome of the false, pernicious doctrine that all men are equal. Socialism is but a halfway house. Therefore, if when this document is discovered, the people of Britain are bound to a state machine, my message to posterity is rebel. All men are not equal. Some have imagination and abilities far above others. It is their province and their right to take upon themselves the responsibility of leading and protecting the less gifted. We are sent into this world to develop our own personality, to use such gifts as we have been given, and to set an example to others by our courage, fortitude, sympathy, generosity, and self-reliance. Any state which controls the lives of the people and dictates where they shall live, what work they shall do, and what they shall see, say, hear, read, and think, thwarts the free development of personality, and is therefore evil. It would be immensely difficult to break the strangle. I don't know if I could read this on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to cut this off at a certain point, folks, and I will invite you to read the rest of the letter yourself. It will be immensely difficult to break the stranglehold of the machine, but it can be done, little by little, the first step being the formation of secret groups of friends for free discussion. And I'm going to leave it there. You folks can read the rest of Dennis Wheatley's letter to posterity, a little combination of TED posting and Fed posting. But I found it absolutely fascinating. I want to look into it a lot more. So, having said that, I mean, he knew or felt that he had to hide this message and leave it until after he had died. Murgu, now that since we found it, do you think this letter had anything to do with the fact that he's a bit persona non grata and kicked off the bookshelves?
Well, I was quite surprised when I was reading into him that he was such a staunch traditionalist compared to the writers of the Fantastic of the day. I mean, Huxley, Orwell, who else was contemporary at the time? Well, Fleming was based, but he was
Fleming.
egoist. But a lot of them were laborites, tried and true.
He was. I mean, you had a lot of the. I suppose you had a lot of people developing Arthur Conan Doyle storytelling, or going like stepping over Doyle and kind of feeding straight from Edgar Allan Poe with his development of sort of detectives. And Wheatley did a lot of that. He has several sort of effectively detective series, with the Duke de Richelieu being very focused on the occult. Right. Yeah, I suppose we should also ask at 54 minutes, do you think Wheatley's worldview feeds into the film, into the story The Devil Rides Out?
Very much so. Christopher Lee tried to make it hold true to the basis of the book, and Wheatley himself thoroughly enjoyed the movie for how it tied into his vision, even though a lot was left out.
Yes, I gather it is quite different. We should also thank someone we've talked about quite a lot on this one. In fact, I saw people referencing his work earlier with regard to Night of the Living Dead. There's, of course, Richard Matheson.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, obviously referencing I Am Legend and seeing the connection between I Am Legend and Night of the Living Dead. I'll be honest, I'm not as sure of that one. I've seen it said. I'm not sure they're as close. I could be convinced, but seem very different to me. So, let's get us some Duke de Richelieu up first. So we're moving into discussion of the film directly. We should probably give the quickest summary, and I know since since you read that massive bit, I'll do the Guinness summary. Unless you're feeling the urge to.
I will let you have the full pleasure of giving the Guinness pour.
No one likes it. Unfortunately, TCG is ill today. That cholera guy. I'm not, so I can't pitch it onto him either. Well, it's very simple, folks. This film wastes almost no time. I've of course immediately forgot all the character names. State of me. Right, let me pull this up because I'm going to have to look at character names. Why can I never remember this stuff? Okay. Obviously, we know Duke de Richelieu. Okay, yeah. There we go. Right. Oh, I don't feel so bad here. I couldn't remember Rex Van Ryn. Terrible name.
Yeah.
All right.
Finding the protege who needs to be rescued.
Okay. So the film wastes absolutely no time whatsoever after sort of spooking you with some symbology that would be somewhat scandalous. It's a bit hard for us to remember, but seeing satanic imagery really was very cutting edge at the time. And audiences would have been a bit spooked by that. We get Christopher Lee's Duke de Richelieu, Nicholas Duke de Richelieu, meeting his friend Rex Van Ryn, and expressing concern about a mutual friend of theirs, Simon. Simon being the son of a long-time acquaintance. And he's gone quiet, dropped out, is not responding. And already you're thinking like, hang on, this is a level of social connection and like close connection that really seems quite alien today. He's not responded. So they immediately go to visit him after, using a car with an absolutely ridiculous chauffeur phone. I know it's not the most important thing, but I found that thing weird and I just had to get a... I mean, it just looks like he's about to hit a hooker, Yeah. A Turkish hooker. Is that what you call them? Hookah.
Hookah.
How do I say it so it doesn't sound like he's been abusing brozzies? Hookah.
Water pipe.
Let's go with that. Yes. So
horn.
They go and visit. They see an Indian servant. You get actually an amazing scene where they just go and instantly stuff is off. Richard Matheson has written in the. I'm sorry, I don't have a screen cap of it, but they go into the atrium and there's the half open door, the ajar door. That sort of, something's wrong here. What's beyond the door? We start thinking that. It's a wonderful touch. And then Duke de Richelieu, I'll just call him the Duke, and Rex Van Ryn go in, and instantly they're in an extremely international, multiracial room. And this is explicitly a sign of foreboding.
Yeah, and they try and pass it off as an astronomer's salon.
Yes, but people don't... they've got very bad OPSEC. They drop little things that the Duke instantly picks up on. Keep referring to the circle, or there'll need to be 13 of us in the circle, The Duke is clearly a guy who's got a lot of experience. He picks up on what's going on instantly, draws his friend Simon away, and gets up to the observatory. Obviously, he's looking around and uncovers everything he needs to know, signs of devil worship, including chickens that are going to be sacrificed. Yes. And if you think that's the only white chick in danger with a black cock, then the rest of the movie is going to be quite shocking for you. If anyone is wondering, by the way, that is very clearly a Sussex star chicken. The hen, I'm not sure. Rhodey, maybe? I'm not sure. I can't place a cockerel, but that's a Sussex star hen. I know you're all worried. Anyway, they can't reason with Simon. He's worried. He says he can't go. And so they knock him out, take him away, bring him back. And McCarter, the leader of the group, is wondering where they're going. We've got our dynamic very clearly set here. They're protecting Simon. McCarter wants him back. They also meet a girl by the name of Tanith Carlyle. Now, they get him away quickly, but then basically Simon is possessed in his sleep and escapes. So they go back to look for him and encounter a demonic surprise. Everyone has left, but there's a demonic surprise waiting for them. We will discuss this later. By the way, do you notice they reused this actor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's here as a demonic entity, and then I just saw him in the crowd later as well.
I love the effect of the smoke being blown out of the goat's nose on the floor. That was
really nice. Yeah. Very effective, I thought. So they want to find Simon through the connection to Tanith Carlyle. Rex Van Ryn is able to meet up with her, lure her away. But both Tanith and Simon are under the control of McCarter. There's a bit of a back and forth as they fail to keep hold of Simon and Tanith. They both escape. I am just doing the quick summary here. And Tanith and Simon make it back to their dark satanic black baptism held in the woods. And this is a real night shoot. You can see this isn't day for night. That's, bless them, they went the extra effort. And at this ritual, it's got everything you would expect to see. This goat does not fare well. And they end up summoning the devil himself. Now, there's all sorts of interesting symbolism in this. I'm sure people who know about the occult will draw different things from it. I was drawing a lot of the subtext from it. Anyway, the Duc de Richelieu and Rex managed to disrupt it, banish this demonic apparition, and rescue Simon and Tanith, get them back. They take them to their friend Richard, who is married to the niece of the Duke. Richard, played very surprisingly by Paul Eddington. We will cover this. But once again, they're visited by McCarter once the Duke leaves on an errand. McCarter worms his way in, insinuates, and then uses hypnotic powers to threaten. Luckily, they are saved from what would have been a hypnotically induced murder spree, with Simon killing Richard and Tanith killing Rex. But having failed to free them, McCarter leaves with this amazing, amazing line. I won't be back, but something will. Oof. Absolutely amazing line. Don't be surprised if you hear that in the next intro for the series, for my streams. Anyway. Basically, it then becomes a battle to resist what McCarter summons. Tanith Tanith is kept safe, bound by Rex with not particularly effective results. The Duke keeps everyone else inside a magic circle. Their daughter is kept safe. There's some great stuff here. This is where they throw the money at the effects. Unfortunately, in all that business, Tanith is killed, taken away by the Angel of Death. And Peggy, Richard and... oh gosh, what's her name? Richard and Marie's daughter is kidnapped by McCarter. And Simon ends up running off to try and rescue them. He tries to kill McCarter, no luck because of the hypnotic powers. McCarter says he's going to sacrifice Peggy. It's kind of grim, actually. There's a standoff. Oh, sorry. I mean, there's some stuff with sort of summoning Tanith's spirit to tell them where everyone is. But given that they're exactly where you'd expect them to be, i.e. McCarter's house, to be honest, don't worry about that too much. And they're basically unable to do anything because this time the occultists have the numbers on them and are actually effective in seeing them off. But luckily, they are saved by a very literal deus ex machina. The occultists perish. The blasphemous hangings on this former church burn down, leaving only a cross. And time is reversed, bringing Tanith back to life, with the life of McCarter being claimed instead. And the Duke de Richelieu claims that they owe their thanks to God for saving them. I hate doing the Guinness summary. I hate doing it. I'm so terrible.
Very, very concise. More concise than mine lately.
I figure we'll pick this up. We'll pick up various details. Before we go further, I'll say a big thank you to Adamless Horror coming in and dropping $2. Thank you so much. Saying haven't watched yet. Like and subscribe, everyone. Actually, yes, fantastic advice. Do like and subscribe. Yeah, Adam, give this a go. I really love this. As you can see, some of the effects a little bit shaky, but so good, so good. Right, thank you again, much appreciated. Murgu, I leave you the whole smorgasbord of. Well, I don't know. Should we stick close to the theme of Dennis Wheatley's influence on the story?
Well, Dennis Wheatley was well researched in the occult. Like you said, he did meet Aleister Crowley and he did talk to occultists. And Christopher Lee tried to hold true. He tried to get the director and the writer and the producers to do some research to get authentic imagery and authentic ritual words in, and they refused. So he did all the research and wrote it in himself. In the intro, there are imagery, the standard, the goat and the pentagram.
Yeah, I'll get that
the
up
evil
again
eye
quickly.
and the hands. But one of the images was of the hexagram with the seraphim in the center with the four heads, the bull, the eagle, the man.
Now, is that the one that's on the elite cultists' robes?
No, those are slightly different, but that's actually the representation of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are slightly different with the ram and the bull. But no, it's in the intro. But Christopher Lee tried to keep things very much true to life, which Wheatley appreciated.
There's an absolute earnestness in this film, which would probably be quite shocking to a lot of people. I mean, basically, Do you remember in the first ones we've done, Hammer started leaning into having a bit of a comedy character?
Mm-hmm.
This is almost devoid of that.
It's
Almost.
played very, very straight.
Yeah, the only person who sort of adds a little bit is Rex, who's a bit more good-natured, but doesn't exactly bring in the laughs. But Paul Eddington here does bring in a lot of comedy. Now, I won't be surprised if this is absolutely alien to you, Mergu, but do you know Paul Eddington from some of his comedy shows? I think someone in the chat
seen
got
his
it already.
face, but I'm not familiar with his comedy shows now.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not sure he'll have travelled outside of the UK, really. But well, you like The Prisoner, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, he turns up in that. It's Patrick Batman. Got it. Yes. Yes, Minister. Yes, Prime Minister, and The Good Life. He's known for that. Actually, he shot another series. I'm trying to remember the name of it. He shot another series that also used MacArthur's mansion as a location.
Yes, the few episodes of Yes Minister that I've seen is probably where I've seen him.
Yeah, I've got to say, I find it very weird him being in this, but good on him. I think he does a fine job. It's sort of nice to have that more realistic skepticism, and it doesn't feel too overplayed. In fact, it's used really nicely in the plot that his skepticism is a tool that MacArthur uses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is much more earnest than any of the others. So yeah, definitely the knowledge of the occult is there. It finds a bit of short shrift with a lot of the research books I've got, to be honest. I was surprised by how sort of sneering they are towards it.
Yeah, the one thing I liked in the trivia was that the clavicula of Solomon, the key of Solomon, was actually Christopher Lee's personal copy that he brought on set. That was amusing.
Oh, yeah. I suppose by this point, he's got the stature, he's helming the film. He could do that sort of stuff. You know, bring his set, write the ritual words, and just sort of lead the production. And I think, frankly, it's stronger for it. I like this point from John Gorris here. The earnestness makes it genuinely engaging, like a Jack Chick tract. Unique, maybe. I think it is a rare gift to be absolutely sincere, like this one is, and I really enjoy it. You know, I really do enjoy it. It's something about Hammer will have the odd sort of character, like the toll extractor in Dracula, who is there just being a bit what's the word I'm thinking here, playing for the gallery, basically playing for the groundlings, a bit broad, that's the word I'm looking for. But those characters are always quite isolated, whereas generally Hammer plays it extremely earnestly and straight. I like it. But I was thinking some of the other angles of Wheatley's thought, some of the stuff that he expressed in his letter to posterity, I thought some of that is expressed in this film quite nicely. I don't know if you disagree with that, Mergu. Do let me
know. Sorry, I'm dealing with my cat.
Oh, bless. So, they will do that. Tell you what, shall I spell out the reading? So Wheatley's worldview here, some of the things that I think he's trying to get at here is some of the signs that something, it's hidden in stuff like the signs that something are wrong. Like the Duke and Rex turn up and this English country house is full of international people. And not like, just a black chap wearing a suit like they are, but people in tribal dress. The room is also filled with the odd character who's got, shall we say, some, I'm trying to think of my words, maybe sort of spiteful mutant physiognomy. I'm circling this woman in particular who I think was cast to be very memorable.
The French Countess. Yeah.
So this sort of international presence, lack of just in Britain, and being presented as out of place is a sign of worrying. It's taken as a worrying sign immediately. And I think that's a bit of Wheatley's like, oh, hang on. This disruption of the international suddenly in what should be the homely is a sign to be worrying. Watch out for the physiognomy, etc. As of, this shouldn't be mixed. They shouldn't be mixed here.
The decadence, just the foreignness of it all. Yeah.
Very much so. But also like the inversion of the traditional here, like when the goat is being slaughtered, the crowd here, again, an extremely mixed crowd. This woman is meant to be Indian. She's got a bindi. You've got this chap who's back, who was previously our demonic spirit. There's no class distinction here, right? Like there's an elite in the purple robes, but everyone else is mixed in here. Now the sashes might mean something. They might be different levels of adherent, but everyone basically mixes it up. So it's like that British class structure is gone here, right? It couldn't be more sort of anti-Britain that Wheatley knew. This is not a British crowd with everyone restrained and stratified. This is like a uniform, how can I say, an international mass of people all in uniform. It's almost like the communist work uniform. In fact, you may recall the sort of sashes that were worn in 1984 over the jumpsuits. You might start thinking of that. But he goes a bit further with that. Now, what do you think this is about? Simon and Tanith are waiting, and suddenly a black chap comes up to sort of dance and try and be kind of intimate with Tanith. She ends up then with
blood of the goat.
She ends up with blood all over her, like she's stained from this interaction. I think you can see what that is a stand-in for. I think you get it. And just generally, it's a crowd that are behaving in a very non-British way. Now, I'm going to try and present something else. I don't know if I'll be able to manage this. This should work. We might have a bit of a problem. Okay, we might have a bit of a problem with this, copyright-wise. But I want you to really pay attention to the music here. I'm going to show you a bit more of their ritual. Right. Okay. Music again by James Bernard, by the way. I'll just play a few bits of it.
No music coming through, but the orgiastic dancing.
Oh, can you hear them? Is the music coming through?
Not on my side.
Oh.
I don't know about their side.
Hang on. Let me try again. It says also share tab audio. Window audio. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. It says I've got to share a screen. Tell you what. Okay. Okay, fair play. I'm going to try and find it on YouTube. I'm sorry. It is just really important that you hear this. Booming. Shameful booming. Okay, bear with me while I find this on YouTube for us. I bet it's on YouTube in its entirety. Let me have a go. No, this is not good. Right. Oh, dear. Maybe if I call it ritual scene, I think I might be able to get it. No. Oh, a sacrifice. Right. This might be what we need. No. Maybe? Sorry, folks. I know this isn't exactly, no. Gosh. Okay, darn it. That's very annoying. Basically, what I was trying to... Oh, maybe this has got the bit I want. No, okay. I'm sorry, folks. Well, basically, you'll have to listen to it yourself. I'm not going to keep looking for it. But the bit I wanted to show you is the music that was playing during the Mass was basically jazz music. Does that sound... Do you think that's a fair description?
Yeah, jazz to the point of being tribal.
Yeah, a mixture of... Yeah, I think it's fair enough. A mixture of jazz and tribal. And basically, the idea of that is what he's worried about is, again, it's this miscegenation, but also it's this popular culture. Now, remember, in the letter we read out, he was concerned... Oh, hang on. Right, hang on. I think Theremin Trees has helped us out. I do want you guys to hear this because I think this is quite important. Right. Yeah. No, I do not want better help. Oh, this is exactly it. Right, I'm going to share this tab. So we're just doing this for, let's do cinema mode. All right, just for the music for a few seconds. That's jazz, right?
Mm-hmm.
A few more seconds.
There.
So, again, this is what Wheatley was concerned about. This is stuff that has been spoken about in books like Who Pays a Piper, where it's observed that jazz was very much a top-down ritual, something that was promoted from the top down, being beamed in. And Wheatley might have been concerned in a similar way about how that kind of music was being pushed to the... And in fact, there's an overwhelming theme in The Devil Rides Out about the youth basically being corrupted by this. There we go. We'll go back to this. That sounds schizo, Murgu?
No. No, it's pretty close to what was intended.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a bit... There's often a... Yeah, you can have a general theme of, oh, what are the young'uns into, eh? Like fear of the youth is a persistent recurring theme in horror. But I mean, a few examples. What the Bad Seed? Let's just reel them off. The Bad Seed, The Omen, The Exorcist. Whatever Happened to Jack and Jill? The Possession of... the one then... Sorry, I can't remember the name. Possession of Character Name, 1972. You've got an endless number of them, right? But this seems really specific, especially given what we know Dennis Wheatley wrote about. Mass communication perverting the culture. Children of the Corn, yes, John Gorris, absolutely. Patrick, yeah, very Weimar Republic. Yeah, it is a bit Weimar. I think that's some of the stuff that Wheatley was writing into this. Like, there's very specific imagery in this.
Well, the ritual is based on one of Crowley's. It's...
Well, yeah,
I'm just... very... He spelled things out and they went with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the occult there and the perversion is definitely, I think that'll be authentic, but I just think like choices in who they cast in the crowd and choices about playing jazz music, I think it sort of gives us a second level of messaging. I mean, maybe we should stick with this scene because it's a bit of a showpiece. Might divide people quite a bit. What did you think of this scene? I'll get our crowd shot back.
I thought it was very good. It was very appropriate for the climax of the movie. It's or the midpoint climax of the movie.
I think it almost could have been the climax of the movie. It's almost what I'd expect to be a climax of the movie. And so when I realized we're at the halfway point, you know.
Well, for the high priest of Satan, it should have been the high point of the movie until the Duke and Rex Van Ryn crashed the party and got everybody out of there.
Yeah, it was a great scene of actual competence for Rex, who you also get a sense of, you get his character, like he's well intentioned, but he's rash. Like a bunch of times in this movie, Rex just fails to contain himself. Sometimes he gets away with it, but he fails, particularly towards the end. Yeah, I liked it. It's atmospheric. I wouldn't say it's perfectly directed. And maybe that's just my taste. I like things a bit more overplayed, but there's stuff like when the goat of Mentis, is that what we call it? Appears. I felt there was maybe, how can I say, the directorial image, the directing could have built it up a tiny bit more. I felt some elements of it ended up underplayed, even though overall I found this a really, really effective scene.
Yeah, it felt more rushed than underplayed. It set everything up, but didn't give you time to appreciate it. It was very frenetic, but that's how a rescue like that would be. It would be frenetic, and the Duke's instruction to take this cross and chuck it at the devil and dispel him from the mass. That was effective.
Yeah, that worked well for me. I think my main problem was some of the delivery of. People might complain about how the Go to Mentis look. No, I loved it. It's nice and uncanny. Fantastic. That was played right. It's just the way it arrives. I guess if I were to have a problem, it would be the sort of crowd are less effective. Yeah, I noticed like Rex is just able to get up and grab people, and quite cannily they switch out the crowd so he's mostly surrounded by women, which is a little bit of a cheat. You sort of have to wonder, like, okay, what are the crowd of men doing around the Duke's car? I would have almost liked him to have a gun. I didn't. I mean, maybe it's very deliberate in this that they don't have a gun because it's a sort of spiritual battle. But I do feel like, in fact, they specifically question why not use a gun. Why does MacArthur not use a gun? And I think the line is that he wants to sort of do everything via magic. It's a test of his will and superiority. But I would have liked something explaining what the rest of the crowd were doing, because it just a little bit of a cheat, a little bit.
Yeah.
But still, great scene.
Just seeing a Bond villain playing a satanic high priest Just
Yeah, we haven't said much about Charles Gray, have we?
no. He's a lot of fun.
Oh, he's fantastic in it. And the use of his eyes are so great. Yeah, speaking about his performance, and I've just been a little harsh on Terence Fisher. There are some quality shots in this, and here's one of them. Absolutely amazing performance by Charles Gray, just sort of ingratiating himself into the home. I mean, it's so British. They're like mortal enemies, and he's just like, well, we have to let him in and be polite, It's a kind of thing that maybe is quite hard to communicate nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, they both act proper. They are maintaining cordiality, and I liked it.
They're proper gentry, proper aristocracy.
It just keeps it feeling British, The standards maintained. Now, there's an interesting thing. I wonder if John Goris is hinting at what I was thinking. Did you have any thoughts about why there are dolls there?
I just thought it was one of the. Well, I thought they were Peggy's, and just the mother was just using them as a something comforting to hold on to. But I didn't look into it much more than that.
Well, I just thought, since we've got McCarter coming in, literally hypnotizing her, and we should note that while he's doing this, Terence Fisher gives us a lovely, slow, moving forward shot, just slowly moving in on Mary. Is her name Mary?
I think
I'm so terrible. I never remember anyone's name. Oh, Marie. Apologies. Moving in on Marie, it's an almost vertigo shot. It's very subtle. It's like, it might not even be a vertigo shot where you zoom out as you move the camera in, but I wonder if they did it to an extent, because just it starts to feel a bit uncanny as the camera gets to her. Yeah, I just wondered, because he's effectively puppeteering her by the end of the scene, and they've got two of his puppets in the house, Simon and Tanith. I wonder the fact that they've got a boy doll and a girl doll there. It's sort of representing Simon and Tanith.
Yeah, I could see that. I missed it, so
I would have liked it if the girl doll had the same colour hair as Tanith, though, to really lock that in. But for me, I don't know. It was a nice touch, but Muggy, you know me, I always look out for. I go out for these little reaches I can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, great performance by Charles Gray. Great shot. Just his eyes are fantastically chilling and used to great effect, including in this scene where they have the car chase. Do you like the car chase?
It's quaint. It reminds me of any 60s movie or 60s TV show where they have just the side scrolls through the window, basically the blue screens. It's just kind of quaint feeling, seeing the old technology. This was effective, just seeing the eyes in the mirror, and Charles Gray's eyes are very expressive.
Oh, definitely. And very well lit, I would say. I mean, I don't usually like car chases, but I loved this bit, and I loved the moment where the car's glass suddenly
Fogged
suddenly
over.
frosted over, fogged up. That was great. I
Yeah.
really did feel the sort of panic at that point.
And then the fog bellowing out of the woods, and
Mm.
he crashes into the tree and staggers out of the car.
Mm.
That was effective.
Yeah. The NREAB is also highlighted bit. Bless them. They were committed to the bit, the NREAB. Yes, the bit where they drove the car through the puddle was funny. Yes, because both Tanith and Rex had to have do the blue screen bit and still get water chucked on them, which looked a little bit odd on the blue screen, I've got to say. I didn't even notice that Rex Van Ryn was actually dubbed.
He was?
So yeah. They clearly did a decent job. So Leon Green played him, but he was dubbed by Patrick Allen.
Why? Just accent-wise, or?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he couldn't do the high class as well. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why he was dubbed. In Twins of Evil, apparently the Collinson twins had a rather strong accents, but it's hard to think that he would. He's a stage actor.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless his voice was too high or too deep for what they wanted for the character, or he couldn't do a posh enough accent. I don't know.
And there was another substitution that was quite great, I thought. So Patrick Mower played Simon, but we nearly had Roddy McDowell playing Simon.
Yeah, I saw that bit of trivia that Roddy McDowell had to take care of a sick friend, so he couldn't make the movie.
Yeah. I would have liked Roddy McDowell, I'm going to be honest. It would have been lovely to see him.
Nah. I could see it either way. I mean, I don't know. I just enjoyed the movie. Just the colors, the palettes that they used, just the bric-a-brac in the home, showing it to be high class, and there wasn't so much a gothic feel as a Victorian and Edwardian era elegance to things.
Yeah, they were setting things back a tiny bit, I believe. So it wasn't meant to be exactly contemporary. It was set in the late 20s, I believe.
Yeah.
But all the same time, this film really still captures a bit of what we talked about as like the coziness. Like, this is just so cozy and reassuring. I don't know how it might sound silly, but I really feel sort of at home in these films. This is it is just like the England I know and feel that I can't actually see around me anymore, but I know it. This might have seemed excessive, but I took the one screen cap here just so you can see. No, I know places a bit like this, but they've all been encroached on. Okay, that pub will still be there, but this, the telephone pole has encroached a bit, but there's even more encroaching now. And it's just, I find it so restorative to just see England as she was. It's that sort of unintentional historicity that comes along with these films that, when they're making something like, one of the ones I want us to watch is, there's The Nanny and there's The Witches. And both of those, just like when we covered Village of the Damned, they've got this extra level of interest just because they show old England.
Mm-hmm.
And I just absolutely love to see it. Oh yeah, where's a Turkish barber? Where's a mosque? Where's the vape shops? Absolutely. Oh dear, yeah, it's that sort of thing that's out of there. I suppose we should talk about one of the other pivotal scenes, kind of an iconic one. This was another bit where I kind of thought that Terence Fisher really had upped his directing game. Do you feel you noticed an improvement in direction in this one, Margoot?
Yeah, and between direction and Christopher Lee's urgings, it came off very much cleaner and more natural. It's well, with Richard Matheson writing the script, it's no wonder it came off as being more natural. But yeah, it was a much cleaner direction. It wasn't as clunky as it used to be, and it's not. It is and it isn't the Hammer formula, and it's. Hate to say it again, but it's much smoother in the way that the movie is laid out.
No, it's a good word. It's a good word to use. More ambitious. I mean, this shot alone to get you the sense of like feeling a bit ominous. Christopher Lee. You know what? I can probably let me get to that scene. We won't have the audio, and I can only show it for a few seconds. But it's a lovely shot. I'm going to see if I can. This might be a bit tricky to get, but it is a lovely one. Sorry. I've nearly got him. Right. Oh, this is such a good shot. Right. I will probably be punished for showing this. It's fine. It's fine. Right. Do you want to say it with me, Margoot? Copyrighted content may be used for the purpose of comment or criticism and be covered under the fair use exemption. And we are provided. This is commentary, isn't it? I'm going to skip along. I mean, look at this. Panning around. They're in a circle. What are we doing? We're circling around them. Huh? We're giving the impression they're surrounded. And Christopher Lee is looking. He's aware. Like he's communicating it to us. They are surrounded. There's something we can't quite see. Excellent. I'm going to stop that there. But do you get what I mean about how that shot conveys the mood wonderfully?
Yeah. It's very well done. It's well blocked. It's well tracked.
I don't think there is anything like that in The Curse of Frankenstein or Dracula 1958. No, or The Mummy. I mean, we both said that there was a, hey, Wolf, good to see you. We both said that The Mummy was directorially superior to Dracula and the Curse of Frankenstein. You know, the third film, sorry. Yeah, third? It might have been fourth that Fisher did for Hammer in 3 years. You know, unsurprisingly, he improved a bit. And this, I think you do see him on another level.
Yeah, he'd fully come into his craft by this point. He was a veteran, 10-year veteran.
So. Totally. It's much more confident. There's just some techniques that you feel he's really doing well with. Really just trying new stuff out and making it work. Yeah, Massive improvement for him, to be honest. I still wouldn't say Terence Fisher is like an A-grade director, but
No.
he's improved. He's improved his craft, so have to respect that. I suppose there's another. I mean, how do you feel about this whole scenario generally?
The survive the night scenario, as John Goris put it. Yeah, it was very well laid out. It was very good. The spider effect at the time would have been very effective between blue screening the spider in and then flashing to the actual tarantula, and then the tarantula confronting Peggy was pretty cool.
That was a really good sequence, I thought, and
Mhm.
that looks a lot better than the last shot we showed.
Yeah.
I mean, just to spell it out for people who hadn't watched it, in this scene, you know, we're told that Peggy is being kept safe upstairs by the butler or chief house servant, possibly, and then we're shown that she comes down to check on her. It's a really good moment of tension. You genuinely don't know, is that really her? You know, Christopher Lee is saying, you know, he's absolute about it. He's determined, no, that's not Peggy. You're being tricked to leave the circle. You know, it's one of so many attempts to get them to go out. And that it's the most effective because you really don't know.
Yeah. And then I love the fact that the angel of death comes in as the night, and they're using the old circus horse. You can tell that poor animal is.
Yes. Yeah. I think the trivia said it only had one lung. Poor thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking effect fails, unfortunately, there was a clear bit where they reversed the footage and then played it back a few times to make it look like the horse kept rearing up. That was an unfortunate thing to notice.
Yeah.
It's yeah, the effects do date this a tiny bit, but like even here where the spider is clearly blue screened in, this was still effective. Like it's still a tense scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it justifiably effective, justifiably celebrated. I suppose if you were going to criticize it, how can I say? If you're going to criticize it, I would be tempted to say because the Duke de Richelieu basically explains nothing. That you sort of aren't. I'm trying to have a go at it and trying to criticize it, but I'm wondering if this is fair, even as I say it. Like stuff sort of gets thrown at you, and it's like, oh, now the Angel of Death's here, and it's like, well, the basic scenario is, you know, you're going to be bombarded with things to try and break you and get you out. So,
well, he stops explaining after the couple of times he does explain, and nobody believes him. And then it's only after this stuff happens, and then he's like, yeah, this is what I was talking about. Do you believe now?
True. There's like a very noticeable absence of like any speech where the Duke de Richelieu sits down and gives like a 4-minute monologue about how he knows all this stuff.
Yeah, it's set up. I mean, it's based off of one of the old mysteries, occult mysteries, where, I mean, you're talking Charlie Chan or Rome, the old Fu Manchu mysteries, the even some of Agatha Christie's, where it's not explained until the very end and you feel stupid for not noticing, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking more like if this were written today, I think there would be a scene where like someone takes the Duc de Richelieu aside. Like maybe it would be when he's exhausted and hasn't slept. So like someone would stay up with him and be like, "Oh, I'll be up with you and keep you awake." And then he'd sort of tell them how he knows about dark magic. Like he'd have probably lost his wife to occultists or something.
Yeah, the
And that's how I
exposition.
know everything. But he never does that. He's
Yeah.
just a guy who's quite mysterious and knows stuff.
Yeah. Ye old exposition dump, which I'm actually grateful it didn't do this
Oh, it's great.
in this movie.
Yeah, it's noticeably absent. You're also noticing we don't have an opening narration. We don't have an opening card. Hammer has ditched that by this point. Firmly an artifact of the sort of 1957, 1958 horrors. 10 years on, we don't do that. We're explaining nothing.
I like the Inrieb's comment. Fisher got Peggy to scream like that by throwing a bucket of water over her. I don't think you get away with that these days.
Yeah, it's basically the same era when John Wayne would just chuck the kid into the river.
Yeah. Or, God forbid, what Kubrick did to Shelley Duvall.
Oh, okay, she got a hard time, but in fairness, he was really great with Danny Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, he was. I'm trying to think. It was Leon Vitali actually worked most closely with Danny Lloyd. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So, can I Kubrick post briefly? No. All right. No, I won't do it. I won't do it. But I'm really desperate to Kubrick post. I will say very quickly that since Vitali retired from acting, basically after playing Lord Bullingdon in Kubrick's previous movie Barry Lyndon, he decided he just wanted to focus on the behind-the-scenes personal assistant stuff. But he'd been a child actor, and so because of that experience, he felt he was best placed to help Danny Lloyd with the acting. He also was the one who cast him, did all the auditioning of the child actors, and then I got most of them together. But no more Kubrick posting. No more Kubrick posting. Although I do have a date to record the next lot of Kubricks for the Lotus Boys.
Cool.
So it'll be 4 hours of Shining talk. It's going to be great. Actually, and one other horror child actor story. This one may be quite well known, but you know the end of The Omen, that wonderful smile that Harvey Stevens gives when he's like sinister, breaking out into a smile. Richard Donner got that effect by basically knowing that he told Harvey that he had to be completely serious. This was a really serious scene. And then he's on camera saying, "Harvey, don't you laugh, you little bugger. You'll ruin it, Harvey. Don't you laugh, you little shit." Knowing that he'd mischievously sort of break out whilst trying to keep it in, the smile would just sort of creep out. Excellent stuff. Good directing, right?
Yeah. Trying to.
Kubrick posting just took me away. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Maybe. Oh, sorry, Maggie. Go ahead.
No problem. What's this show without a few tangents?
All about the tangents. I suppose we go pretty much straight into the finale. Actually, here's a criticism of it. Do you think this is fair? Like, they did a ritual to summon, to talk to Tanith's spirit, who told them, you know, you can find MacArthur at MacArthur's house. I'm just gonna throw out perhaps they didn't, like, seeing as Simon just went straight there, I
Yeah.
just sort of feel like maybe the big dramatic thing didn't need to happen, even though it does relate to the ending. As
Yeah.
Tanner's spirit comes back a second time, but it did feel a bit. I just feel like if Harrion were watching that, he'd flip out.
Yeah, this was kind of abrupt and just kind of tacked in to make sure the audience knew what was going on.
Yeah. And I mean, when it moved us into this, I really, really liked this. The sense of absolute futility. Again, we saw Rex just immediately go into the crowd like a Chad, like he did before, and knock two guys out and then get swarmed. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then obviously Richard, his daughter's up there. He goes, gets swarmed. So that feeling of the group of heroes just getting whittled down, they can't do anything. Great scenario, very powerful. I really thought Simon was going to turn it around and find it in him to actually stab McCarter.
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, the Rex Van Ryn playing Archie to Nero Wolfe, or number one son to Charlie Chan, the gung-ho, fist first kind of person. I mean, that's, once I realized this was part of a series, I was like, yeah, it's definitely 30s, 40s, 50s era detective novels.
Yeah, is that like Kato as well? That sort of Kato character to Inspector Clouseau. I might be mangling my reference there. Yeah, I liked it. It felt hopeless. I suppose to an extent, I wasn't that sure about. Maybe I wanted Christopher Lee and I'm sorry, whoever is playing. I'll look her up. I'm sorry, I can't. What's her name? Sarah Lawson. Apologies. They obviously they can't do anything when they're on the stairs, but they were a bit too still when when Peggy's about to be sacrificed there. That was a slight. This is a tight scenario. It's great. It was tense. I do think that acting slightly let them down at this point.
Yeah, that was. It's no, don't dash in, but she froze, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe it's too American or too modern, but I would have liked her to almost like turn on Richlow and shake him, and like she's got to do something other than they both stand still and watch. Like, I don't know, maybe something like a more frantic POV cam from Richlow, where he's just like scanning around looking for something he could use as a heavy weapon. Like something like that, and just getting desperate before we get our Deus Ex Machina. I would have liked that.
Yeah. It's just the frozen in place didn't really work.
Yeah, it's slightly too stiff. Sometimes Hammer does get accused of being stiff. We're getting a comment here. So that scene is the same in the Guardian of the Abyss Hammer TV series. So is that Hammer House of Horrors? We have not watched that.
No.
What if you mean that one? Leslie, is that the one you mean, Hammer House of Horrors? Maybe we should look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, I want us to look at it. Let's see, Guardian of the Abyss. Oh, it's a great scenario. I'm not surprised they use it.
Hammer House of Horror, episode 10.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Leslie. Oh, and Leslie's confirmed it. Yeah. It's a great scenario, as I say, just slightly off-played. And noticing we're coming up on 2 hours, how did you feel about the actual Deus Ex Machina that solves a problem and saves them?
It's a Deus Ex Machina, but for the rest of the movie, it flowed pretty well. It wasn't as clunky as many that I've seen.
I suppose if you're bringing in infernal forces and the Lord, you're like an actual intervention. Like, yeah, it does fit. So it's not as bad as other Deus Ex Machinas.
Yeah, it made more sense with this one.
I suppose the other thing that helps it is embodying it in Peggy. Made it feel a bit more grounded, and it had been given a bit of a setup by already bringing Tanner's spirit back before. It also has this interesting inversion of one of the themes of, how can I say? One of the themes of this is paternalism, that there's going to be a direction of the young by the old, and that's why you absolutely have to have the good guidance from above, MacArthur or the Duke de Richelieu. And then they're saved ultimately by the child embodying that spirit. And I think that is kind of core to the message of Wheatley here.
Yeah. I will give you that.
Yes. Although I'm not sure. Oh, John Gorris is not won over. Yes. I would like it to end just when the knocked out dude comes to and Lee says it's over. Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not sure either of us were particularly sold on the Tanith Rex love storyline.
Oh, no.
No. Sorry to say. Didn't win us over. We could probably have talked about it a bit more, but I struggled to engage with it, to be honest.
It was useless.
I mean, this is all right, if we're going to trim 5 minutes from the film,
that was going to be it.
Her, not that we don't like her, like, tied up and on the hay bale, but I think that was there for maybe slightly different purposes. In terms of how that scene usually is. Yeah, and I noticed once again something that's happened in absolutely every one of these Hammer movies. This basically, once the villain is taken down and the threat is removed, the movie ends within about 60 seconds. Like, they don't hang around. And it's just like that consistent thing. Like, there we go. Yep. What do you want? MacArthur's dead, right? And yes, God be praised, right? Boom.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
The ceremony goes up in flames. The church is reconsecrated by the angel, and time flows backwards, so everybody's still alive and kicking, except for the high priest.
Yeah, we'll take it as a win. I suppose we do get a little exposition just clarifying what has happened from the Duke de Richelieu. Just say, no, it definitely all happened. However, it's been undone. It wasn't all a dream. But yeah, I appreciate the brevity of the ending as well.
Yeah. Didn't drag it out. Didn't really do much exposition. Didn't belabor the point. It's good wins, credits roll. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean that we've hit 2 hours, so I think we should probably probably be wrapping up. But yeah, this I'll just put it out here. Yeah, this was the strongest of the classic Hammers.
Yes, it was. It's The direction was tight. There were a few inconsistencies here and there. The Tanith Rex plot was useless. Some of the familiar tropes have become stale nowadays, but they were newer then. But other than that, it was a very good movie. I'm not sure. Christopher Lee, it was a passion project for him, and it came through. His acting, he was given lines. He was given lines that he could say with confidence. And
he owns the whole film, you know?
Yeah. Him and Mr. Gray own the entire film between the two of them.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews really have a go at the supporting cast. Actually, let me just check, because I believe our good friend Mr. Barker had something to say on that. Right, yes, Clive Barker. Entertaining adaptation of Dennis Wheatley's classic novel, scripted by Richard Matheson. Lee makes a perfect Duke de Richelieu, absolutely, battling to rescue his friend Simon from black magic coven controlled by High Priest MacArthur. However, the supporting cast is surprisingly weak for Hammer, and special effects not as good as they could be. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's just seems unfair to me. Just seems unfair.
Oh.
What's not to like, eh?
No.
I'm just going to leave him there.
Yeah, I can't say it. Too spicy.
An apparition of pure evil is summoned. What did they mean by this?
I've seen too many prawn memes.
Oh no. I know this guy. They don't even explain him. Bless him, but he turns up. It's not even like, oh, it's a demonic entity. It's just like, well, obviously it's creepsome. It's like, oh. It weirdly. So the Sinclair McKay book I've got there writes about this moment and says it appears racist. Now, obviously, it wasn't racist, but it appears that way now. I'm like, well, I don't know. There's absolutely an element of fear of the
other,
non-traditional. Yeah, let's just go with the other throughout there, like, which absolutely would be read as racist. It's just. Anyway, yeah. John Garris appreciating. Yeah, I like how he stares and smiles. Yeah, he's creepy. He's great. He's just unsettling. He's weird, and it's played so confidently. I'm a fan of it. I genuinely like the scene, and just look how he stands out so much from the rest of the room.
Mm-hmm.
The room is all blue hues, and he's in with these extremely rich colors, like excellent stuff.
Bright red, yellow eyes,
yeah.
mahogany skin, just
otherworldly.
Yep.
It's great. I mean, where would you be on? I think we're probably in the scores phase of the stream. What would you score this, Margu?
I'm giving it an 8.5 burgers. Very, very little cheese. There was a couple of smaller parts, but some ketchup, goat's blood ketchup.
Oh yeah.
Beyond that, it was well directed. It was. The passion came through with Sir Christopher Lee and with Mr. Gray. They were having a good time with it. It was well researched. And getting Richard Matheson to write it was a stroke of brilliance.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't praised Richard Matheson enough, but he was a great guy for it, and I think this is why he gets such an efficient script, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
He's an efficient writer. He knows how to deliver the mood quickly. Yeah, okay, 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
I will take that. I will take that. I will raise you 9 burgers, and I would love to go higher, but the Tanner storyline, I can't go much above because of the Tanner storyline and the slight cheesiness of the time warp. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of time being reversed, but
Yeah.
Everything we've talked about, like the subtle basedness, Christopher Lee getting a chance to absolutely shine.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that is good. Yeah, okay. Everyone is around this. Yeah. Okay, so you're 8.5. I've got a couple of 9 burgers. I've got a couple of 10 burgers. So yeah, we seem to be aligned here. So yeah, 9 burgers, very little cheese, excellently assembled ingredients, no pickle, a rare 0 pickle Hammer film,
Mm-hmm.
and decent amount of ketchup. You notice actually fairly low blood count, fairly low violence count for Hammer. It really does stand out for that. Although that poor goat, I've got to say, they did a good job of making that creepy.
Mm-hmm.
A 9 again from Leslie. Not won over by the goat makeup. That's fair. I was a fan of it. I thought it looked nice and uncanny. So a strong recommendation. Very strong recommendation. I was disappointed to find out that the next Wheatley adaptation they did to The Devil a Daughter wasn't a follow-up to The Duke de Richelieu. I was sad about that. Alas.
So was Christopher Lee in that one too, or?
He was, but just as a completely different character. Yeah, sad to say. I would have loved to see more Duke de Richelieu. Potentially, horror. This didn't hit. Some of the reading I've got is showing that it didn't make as much money as they hoped it would.
Yeah.
But which is possibly explaining why after this, Hammer went into the more crowd-pleasing Blood and Booba that we covered last week with the Vampire Lovers.
Yeah.
In case anyone has forgotten what they covered in that, or rather, uncovered, etc.
Ooga. Yeah.
But more of that next week when I should hopefully actually cover Hammer Glamour for you, and we'll have a look at that at what I can actually show you from it anyway. Right. Okay, so that is our thoughts and scores for The Devil Rides Out. A little bit of interesting TED posting history from Dennis Wheatley. And I need to give you your horror homework. Unfortunately, I have not settled on what it is. I'm sorry to say, chat, I have not settled on what it is. We've got 2 more shows in September. And I know I want to end on a Vincent Price arc. But I think next week we might go for something a bit more modern. I know that people have wanted to hear our thoughts on Longlegs. So I thought I might try and go for that.
Okay.
Shall we just commit to that?
Yeah, let's go.
We're committing to that. All right, chat. Your horror homework next week decided it's Longlegs. We'll be
Is that a Shudder exclusive, or can it be found elsewhere?
I am not certain. I don't think it is. I have to have a look for it. I mean, it's not so new that it might not be locatable on the internet. And I believe the director is someone we were quite fond of. I might Andre Øveldal, maybe. Let me just confirm. Oh, no, sorry, that's the other one. I was thinking of Last Voyage of the Demeter. No, this is Osgood Perkins, who we're a big fan of from certainly February, The Blackcoat's Daughter. And he did another one we loved as well. What am I forgetting? Oh, we're quite interested in I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
Holy moly.
Yeah, that needs a look at.
Long Legs is for rent on a couple different places, but it's $19.99 on YouTube, and it's $19.90. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm stingy. I'm stingy. No, we aren't doing that. Okay, change your plan, folks. I will let you know what the horror homework is. I haven't got that money to splash out on new films. Gosh, no. I had to spend that money on Hammer Glamour, photo book of saucy 60s girls. No. Patrick Batman, I did also see that Rob Agar crapped on Long Legs. I was rather disappointed by that, let's say. Yeah, I do want us to do something a bit more modern. Maybe Trap. Can we get Trap? Is Trap around?
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to be around for rent. Okay. I think we're probably best taking a little time. We'll decide. We'll let you know ASAP. There'll be something a bit more modern just to mix it up. Yeah, Trap at the cinema. Yeah. Don't know if we can do that.
Trap is in the same boat as Long Legs. It's $19.99 for rent.
Oof.
Everywhere.
Oof. No, I'm not paying that. Ugh.
I might try and find it in the cinema.
No. Okay.
We've got discount cinema here.
All
it
right.
may still be there.
Okay. I'm going to look into the list of requests and see if we can cover something. I will let you know. All right, folks. Well, as I said, thoughts and scores for The Devil Rides Out have been posted. You all appreciated it. You got some base TED posting from Dennis Wheatley. And you have a TBC on your horror homework. And with that all done, Margit, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And thank you, chat, for being entertaining.
Yes, chat, you've been on form. I appreciated it. And yeah, that's great stuff. So thank you very much. I hope you've got a good Friday tomorrow, and I hope there is a lovely weekend on the end of that Friday. Glad you appreciated it, folks. Thank you, Theremin Trees. And I will leave you all there. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
#Shellgang.
Yeah, get better, TCG. Get better. Get that Lemsit down, you lad.